Hey, well, good morning. I forgot to turn my mic on just right then, but I caught it. It was all good. Hey, good morning. It's good to have you guys here. We are wrapping up this series today, Life Change. We've been in it for the past 8 weeks, and hopefully you have enjoyed this series and have heard from other people. I just want to say thank you to, I know we've shared some videos of people, and that's not easy. We got one more for you today, but can we just give a thank you for those people that have been willing to share that. It's not an easy thing to get up here or to have your video, especially if you're at church when your video is played. Does anybody watch themselves on video? It's horrific. Like, it's the worst thing ever. Like, I see ours posted out there, and I'm like, yeah, I ain't watching that. But it's just awful, but it's hard. But I'm grateful for those people. But if you're just joining us here, or if you're maybe just jumping in for the first time and you're like, you don't know what this is, we've been in this series called Life Change, where we've just been talking about genuine life change that has happened because of a relationship with Jesus. We've heard from people in our own congregation and circumstances that might have been the catalyst for that life change, whether that was good or bad. We've heard from stories of the Bible, people, biblical characters that have had experienced life change and the result of their life change. And authentic stories that are difficult to share, but they led to some deeper walk with Jesus Christ. So, and really, this is at the center. I know it's a message series, but it's really at the center of everything that we're trying to be at Salem Grace, everything that our leadership is pushing forward, everything that we exist for. In fact, we do have a mission statement here, and yet again, I have a gift card. And this is cool because somebody gave me this gift card. It's like, when you did that, I love that. I'm going to give you another gift card. Does anybody know the mission statement? Boom, he's got it. Come get your gift cards. I love it. He's got it. So if you didn't hear him and you're wondering, this is for you, I should just whiz that out there. But that's for you, man. It is to inspire life change through a relationship with Jesus Christ. And we believe wholeheartedly, that is our entire mission. That is all we are about. We want to create environments. We want to create spaces. We want to, everything that we do, it's behind everything that we do, is to try to inspire you into a relationship with Jesus that would lead to life change, and you can experience some of that life change. So let me ask you a question. Who's the most influential person you've ever met in your life? Somebody like the most famous, the most influential, and so help me if somebody says Taylor Swift, we're having an altar call right now. So, Lindsay, where are you? I know. My daughter, Rachel. Bieber's got a new one out too. So, who's your biggest flex? Like, do you have someone's number in your phone that is your biggest flex? Does anybody have anybody famous in your phone? Like, no one? Anybody have who's your biggest flex in your phone? Like, your number. So here's mine. Are you ready? I've got a picture of him. I've got a picture of this guy I have. Does anybody know who that is? No one. That's my biggest flex. I know. There you go. It's my biggest flex. It's as good as it gets. Has anyone ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? This is Dan Cathy. He is the former CEO, Dan Trulith Cathy. He's the former CEO and son of the founder of Chick-fil-A. And that's him, and I have Dan's number in my phone. But have I used it? No, I have not. Thank you for answering the question. I've been too scared. But I had a privilege to meet Dan at a leadership meeting. A really incredibly down-to-earth human being, has an amazing story of his life change and the story of their family. And if you didn't know that Chick-fil-A was Christian chicken, it is. So. But have I had the opportunity? I have had dreams of walking into a Chick-fil-A and getting really bad service and then whipping Oh, really? How about I call Dan? But they're always like, my pleasure, and they're always so nice, so I don't ever get to use it. So one of these days, I'm going to have a bad experience, and I'm going to call Dan, and he's going to say, who is this? But he did give me his phone number, so I do have Dan Cathy's phone number in my phone. So, but we meet people in this life that are influential, don't we? We have encounters and we meet people that we come in contact with, and sometimes these people are just normal people, but they influence our lives. And actually, when we were leaving church last week, there was an individual that was here. And as she was leaving, she said something to me and described our church in a way that I'd never heard it described. I've heard it described in a lot of ways. But this one, she said, and I thought it was one of the greatest compliments I think I've ever gotten about our church, and she's like, that felt really normal. And I was like, clearly she hadn't met Jim yet, so it was very clear that she had not met Jim. But I love that. I love that sometimes our stories are influenced by just normal, everyday people. They're people that you sit with in church and you hear their story and you didn't know things about them. And, when I started thinking about this concept of who has influenced my life through their life change, I immediately think of my dad. My dad was somebody that, I know many of you knew my dad. But my dad was a guy that experienced life change at 18 years old. He came from a less than desirable home life. My dad's home life, he had 12 brothers and sisters, and they were less than ideal. It was an abusive home. He lived in a car for a year, pretty much, when he was about 11 years old. And he took us to see that car in the woods when we were in high school. It was a pretty neat experience. But my dad and my mom passed down this heritage of their relationship with Jesus Christ, and I'm so grateful for my parents. They influenced my life. And so my dad passed away several years ago, but I still meet people who were impacted by him. And so he experienced life change at 18. And here's what I noticed is that, and we see that repeated throughout life change. Like my dad passed away several years ago, but his impact was still there. In essence, he outlived his life change. Or his life change outlived him, actually. My dad's life change outlived him. Like his life change impacted others, and it's still like when I think of the ripple of my dad's relationship that he experienced when he was 18 years old, and as a result I grew up in a Christian home, and as a result my kids are growing up in a Christian home, and as a result their kids are growing up, my grandkids are growing up. It's generational. And so this life change, the true life change will outlive you. When you experience true life change through a relationship with Jesus Christ, it will outlive you. It should outlive you. And so I love that. Peter, last week we talked about Peter, and there's a passage in 1 Peter chapter 10, 12, and he says something that I think is so profound in this passage, and it's something that I've said a lot myself, and quite honestly, I didn't even know that Peter kind of had said it already, so I guess he gets credit. But here's it is, and just to preface this passage of Scripture before we jump into the real meat of today, he was talking in his letter that he wrote in 1 Peter, he was talking about the prophets. And if you don't know who prophets were, they were these people. There was a time in history where God presented his message to us. They didn't have a Bible. They didn't have churches like we have churches today. They didn't have access to Scripture. Most people were illiterate, couldn't read, that type of thing. So God chose to speak to his creation through prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah. And these prophets would say things. God would tell them to share things that not even they understood, which was interesting to me. I don't know if I really captured that until now. But God would speak to these prophets, and they were like, hey, here's what I want you to tell the people. And they actually wondered themselves what it meant. Like they were telling people this, but I don't think they truly understand the scope of what God was planning through his creation and through Jesus Christ. And so just let me read this really quick. It's in 1 Peter chapter 10. I don't know what chapter, it's verse 10. I forgot to write down the chapter. I think it's chapter 1. It says this, the salvation was something even the prophets wanted to know more about when they when they prophesied about his gracious salvation. And so, in other words, they were prophesying about this great salvation that would come through Jesus Christ, and they didn't even understand what that meant, which was interesting to me. Going on, it says, they wondered what time or situation the Spirit of Christ within them was talking about when he told them in advance about Christ's suffering and his great glory afterward. In other words, God was speaking to the prophets and going, hey, Jesus is going to come, Christ is going to suffer greatly, and there's going to be great reward and salvation that comes after that. They didn't even understand that. And so, and they were, in verse 12, this is the important part. Listen to what they were told by God. It was really good. They were told that their messages, this is so important, were not for themselves, but for you. In other words, the time that they were talking about, Peter was like, hey, these prophets that lived years ago, their message wasn't for them. It was for you right now. And so, and now this, let me just finish the verse. And now this good news has been announced to you by those who preach the power of the Holy Spirit and sent from heaven. So what I get out of that is that your story is not just for you. You understand that? Your life change is not, your story and your life change that you experience is not just for you to have a cool story. It is for somebody else. It may be for your grandkids. It may be for their kids. It may be for somebody you don't know that hasn't even been born yet. That's crazy to think about, that God works that far in advance and ahead of us. And so what if you experience life change in such a way this year that the life change outlives you? That's crazy to think about. What if you experience life change? It changes everything about your life. Your life begins to be an influence on someone else, and your life change continues to impact generations after you're gone. That's what we call legacy, people. And so step one of that life change is the pivotal moment, and typically we all have this. And I know, we may not have all this one pivotal moment. Maybe it has just come through time. But typically there's a moment in your life when you choose to step into this relationship with Jesus Christ. You choose to hey, there's something to this. I believe that there's something to this. This is more than just a fairy tale. I'm gonna lean into this a little bit. Maybe I'm gonna pick up my Bible and start reading it for myself. Maybe I'm gonna start volunteering. Maybe I'm gonna start doing something about it. But you made a decision to come to church. Maybe you embraced the awkwardness of coming into a grow group. We had some people over at our house. Everybody, when you do that, it is so awkward. Get into a grow group. It's the most awkward thing you've ever experienced of your life. It's fantastic. No problem. Jim's in charge of that, so if it fails, it's, no, I'm kidding. It is so awkward, but it's the most beautiful thing because everybody that leaves goes, you know what? I'm really glad I did that. I'm really glad I stepped into that because I experienced something that maybe was life-changing. People that serve in a capacity that they don't think they're capable of serving afterwards go, you know what? I still feel like I'm not capable of doing this, but I'm so glad I did. Step one is that life change. It's that moment that is, and sometimes that moment is not always pleasant. Sometimes that life change comes out of a lot of pain and loss. And it's hard to get your head wrapped around it. And so today I have a story for you, and I know she's incredibly nervous to share this, and it happens to be my daughter's, Rachel. And so take a look at her story.
So walk me through what it's like, or what it was like, before you made that decision to follow Christ. What did that look like for you?
So I literally grew up in this church. Growing up, my grandpa was the pastor here, and we were here every Sunday. It was just non-negotiable. If friends stayed the night Saturday night, they were coming with us, and if I stayed at a friend's on Saturday night, Cheryl was there bright and early to pick me up before church so that I could make it to church. There was no skipping. We went every Sunday, and most Wednesday nights we would come to. So like, I don't really remember life not knowing who Jesus was. I've always known who Jesus was. But my relationship with Jesus wasn't really personal until college. My childhood was great though. I really always had everything I needed and really ever wanted in life. I can't really complain about my childhood. My parents are great. I have a great family. We're super tight knit. I had great friends growing up, and I just really have no complaints.
So you had something that tested that faith, right? And kind of changed the trajectory you were on in your relationship with Christ. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, my high school experience was great, really up until my junior year. I had a friend in March of 2015 that got in a car accident with his brother, Wyatt McGee, and he passed away in March of 2015. And then 3 months after that, 4 of my other friends and I decided that we would go get ice cream on a Saturday night. It was like a summer night. We wanted to go get ice cream, so we did. Prior to coming back home, my friend Rowdy and I was buckled in the window seat in the back of the car, and Rowdy came to the car and was like, I'm not riding in the middle on the way back. And I was like, well, I'm not riding in the middle of the way back. I rode 3 deep on the way here. And they're like, no, you're the girl, like you need to scoot over. And so there's this back and forth of who was gonna ride in the middle on the way back home. And ultimately, it ended up being me. On our way home, we were hit by a drunk driver, and Rowdy sustained several injuries that he did not survive. I fractured 6 of my vertebrae, had some shoulder issues, had to have shoulder surgery. With that accident, there was the physical injuries, and there was the grief that you walk through, and my family, my friends walked through that as well with me. But what a lot of people didn't really know that I was walking through at that time was serious survivor's guilt. I couldn't understand why it had to be Rowdy. I felt like it should have been me. I was in that seat. I felt like rooms I would walk into, my family and my friends, and of course, this is all me that I'm thinking this. I would think like, oh my gosh, everybody wishes that I wouldn't have moved seats. And so that was a super heavy time of my life. My senior year, I cried going to school every single day in my car. I was just in a really dark, deep depression. I was angry. College came, I just kind of was like, hey God, I still believe in you, but I'm really mad at you right now, and I don't want anything to do with you. And I just was like, I'm kind of gonna just do me right now, God. And so I got into a relationship that was not healthy, and then that didn't work out. I was heartbroken over that. I got into the party scene a little bit. I just lived my life for my own desires and didn't really care to grow my relationship with Jesus.
What was it like then when things got serious in your relationship with Christ? And then how were you after that? What did you look like after that?
In 2019, I applied for an internship with Big Stuff Camps, which is where we take our high schoolers every summer to Panama City Beach. And I was accepted as an intern that summer. So I went there as an intern in 2019, and that's really when Jesus became personally to me. I experienced Jesus in a new way. I experienced community in a new way, and how having a community of people who are chasing Jesus alongside of you is so vital in your walk with Christ. That summer just really became a shift for me of how my pain and everything I've gone through, and I don't have the why and I don't know why, can be used to lock arms with other people who have gone through the same thing and walk through it with them. I felt like I had a purpose to the pain that I had walked through at that point. But after that summer, I was not this perfect Christian. I came home and I fell flat on my face, and I fell short and came up short time and time again. And there have been seasons since then that I have wrestled with God still, and there have been seasons that I have felt distant, and there have been days that I haven't reflected Jesus in the best light. But the difference is between then and now is now I know after I fall short or I mess up, I can get up, brush my knees off, hold his hand, and he'll walk me through it.
There's no doubt some people watching this, listening to this, that have experienced tragedy, maybe even similar to what you've had. What would you say to them if they're going through that now and they're doubting God and their faith is struggling and they don't know why, or they have survivor's guilt for, you know what I mean? What would you say to encourage them if they're watching this?
I think I would tell somebody that has walked through similar seasons that I have walked through is that God is not mad at you for doubting. He's not surprised by your doubt. He's not surprised by your hurt. He can hold your anger. There's room for all of your emotions with him. He invites it. He wants you to come to him with it. I wish I could go back and tell my 19-year-old self that you don't have to be ashamed of your doubts or your wrestling or your anger or your hurt with him, because he can handle it. He's big enough to handle that. It's really just that simple. Jesus wants you to come to him with your hurt and your anger and your resentment and your doubts and your wrestling. And you may not ever in this life get the answer. Why? Why did I walk through that? Or why did this happen? I know I probably won't ever have that answer in this life as to why my friends died at the young age that they did. But what I do know and have the confidence in is that I will see my friends one day and I'll see them fully whole and healed and with Jesus, and I'll be with them. And that's the confidence I have walking through this life, and it's the same confidence that you can have.
I like it. Sometimes I think change happens when we recognize that God sees all the ugly and he knows it. He knows everything about us. You're not hiding anything from him. I'm grateful for Rachel for sharing her story and walking through that even as her dad. As a parent, it's hard to watch that, but I love where she's landed. There's a story that I want to just wrap up here with really quick out of Scripture, and it's a very similar story. I mean, it's a story of another female character in the Bible, and we don't really even know her name. And many of you are going to know when I say the stories. Many of you won't because you don't know. But there's a story in John chapter 4 about a woman. In fact, we don't even know her name. She's often just referred to as the Samaritan woman or the woman at the well. She's just honestly we don't even know her name. And so just to kind of give you, I just want to share a little bit of this and tie this together. Just to kind of summarize the story, if you're not familiar with the story, Jesus was traveling, and he was traveling to Galilee, and because some Pharisees, which were religious leaders, were making a stink in Judea, and so he's like, I think I just need to head on over to Galilee. And so Jesus is making his way over there. He stops to get a drink at a well. And it just happens to be Jacob's well, which is interesting. If you do any research about Jacob's well, it was a well that was built by Jacob, but it dates back to God's promise to Abraham to send a solution for the broken world. In other words, a.k.a. Jesus. And so here Jesus is at that well meeting this woman. And he encounters this Samaritan woman. And if you don't know what a Samaritan woman is, a Samaritan woman was somebody that was half Gentile and half Jew, okay? So they were born Jewish, but they married somebody who wasn't, or got together with somebody, or their parents did, and now they were half Gentile and half Jew. And these people were seen as dirty by most of Jews. They were filthy. They weren't allowed to come to temple. They weren't allowed in places that other people. So this girl had some church hurt. She had tried to go to temple, and she wasn't allowed there. She was treated as an outcast. Most of the time, Jews would not even speak to Samaritans. And so Jesus having this conversation, she's buffaloed by this. And so that's kind of the picture. I just kind of wanted to set the stage there. She's not allowed to worship. She's Jewish. Jews didn't even speak to him. And there's 4 things that happen in this interaction. And I'm going to run through them really quickly, so stay with me, okay? We're gonna go kind of fast here. But there are 4 things that I want to pull out of this story that's really impactful with life change. And then the first one is this. Jesus has a gift for you. Jesus has a gift for you. It's just whether or not you want the gift or you're willing to accept this gift that he has for you. Let's read the story. It's in John chapter 4, verse 7. It says this: Soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, Please give me a drink. He was alone at the time because his disciples had gone to the village to buy some food. The woman was surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. She said this to Jesus: You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink? And Jesus replied, here's the part that I love. If you only knew the gift of God has for you. You and who you are speaking to, you would ask me, and I would give you living water. And I just couldn't help but think about, is Jesus saying that to you this morning? Like, if you only knew what I have for you, you would be blown away. I wonder if Jesus is saying that to us. Jesus has a gift for you. He wants to change your life. It's an amazing gift that many will ignore. In fact, they'll run the other way from it. He has something so much better for you than what you have planned for your life. Hear me out. And the question is, will you accept the gift of life change that Jesus has for you? And practically, what does that look like? How do you accept that? It's surrender. It's surrendering your pride and swallow it. Some of you guys out there, men have the hardest problem with this because we think we have to be, like it's somehow weak to surrender to Jesus. It's one of the most powerful things I think you can do as a man and a leader of your family. It looks like swallowing your pride. It looks like admitting your sin that Jesus already sees, and that's the second thing. Jesus already sees your sin. Let's go on. Verse 15. Please, sir, the woman said, give me this water. Then I will never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water. And then Jesus responds to that with a crazy demand. Verse 16, he says, go and get your husband, Jesus told her. I love that Jesus asks her that question. And here's why or has her to do that. Because he already knows the answer. He just wants her to come clean with it. He already knows what you've been caught up in, and he doesn't care. He just wants you to admit it, okay? She responds to that with, if you know the story, I don't have a husband, the woman replied. And Jesus said, you're right. Ding, 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 ding. Tell her what she's won, Johnny. She's won life eternal. That's what she's won because she admits it. And he goes on, he says, you don't have a husband. You have had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man that you're living with now. Oh, snap. Jesus called her out at the well. You certainly spoke the truth, she said. Ding, 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 you're right. If you think you are hiding something from Jesus today, sitting in here, you are not. He knows your junk. He doesn't care. He saw your Facebook post. He heard the thought in your head when you were driving behind someone. He heard every perverted, angry, greedy thought in your head, and you know what? He doesn't care. He just wants you to surrender that and come to him and admit it and receive life change. You know how I know that? Because in Romans 5:8 it says, God showed his great love and mercy by sending Christ to die for us while we were sinners. In the middle of your sin, in the middle of you doing the most heinous thing that you've ever done, Jesus looked at you and said, he's worth it. That's the second thing. Third thing, Jesus wants to entrust you with an incredible treasure. The woman said, I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Then Jesus told her, I am the Messiah. Interesting point. This is the first time he ever told anyone that. He never told, even his disciples. They thought kind of he was the guy, but this is the first time recorded that Jesus actually physically told someone that he was the Son of God, that he was the Messiah that the prophets had talked about, that every Jewish person was looking for or hearing from, that would have known about that. This is the first time. And who did he tell? He told a woman who had 5 husbands and was currently shacked up with somebody that wasn't even her husband. You think Jesus cares? He just wants you. He just wants you. With all of your junk and all of your mess and all of your anger and all of your sin, he wants it all. This was the first time. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is God's greatest treasure? I think it's us, but it's his son Jesus, right? He sent his one and only son to die for us. And a woman who had 5 husbands and lived with the one who wasn't her husband, God chose to give his greatest treasure into the heart of man. And there's a passage that I love. It's one of my favorite passages in Scripture. It's out of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7. And it says this: we now have this shining light in our hearts, but we ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing this great treasure. God has chosen to put his greatest treasure in a fragile clay jar called humans. And he chose to embed his relationship and his Holy Spirit inside my heart. And you are walking around as fragile as we are. You ever seen a clay pot? You know how fragile that is? I mean, you can sneeze on it and break it. That's how fragile we are as human beings. And yet God chose to bury his greatest treasure in me. Blows my mind. It's crazy. He has a great treasure that he wants to give you. And Jesus, the last thing is this. Jesus wants us to do something with that great treasure. He wants you to multiply. He wants you to multiply. And it's exactly what we see in this story. The woman left her water jar beside the well and ran back to the village telling everyone, "Come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah?" So the people came streaming from the village to see him. And you know what happened? Here's what happened. Thanks for asking. Verse 39. Many Samaritans from the village believed in Jesus because the woman had said, "He told me everything I did." In other words, this woman went back and shared her experience of life change with somebody else, and many people believe because of her story. Your story is not just for you. It's for somebody else. Then Jesus explained, my nourishment comes from, they were worried about, the disciples came along, they were worried about Jesus hadn't eaten and everything. And he says this, my nourishment comes from doing the will of God, who sent me, from finishing his work. You know the saying, for months between planting and harvest, but I say, wake up and look around. The fields are already ripe for harvest. In other words, there are people that need to know about the great treasure that you are carrying or you are professing to carry around in your heart. Jesus knows that he has given you a great treasure. If you're here and you're a believer or a follower of Jesus Christ and you know that you've experienced life change in some way, he wants you to tell somebody else about it. He wants you to share your story in some way or some fashion. He wants you to serve. He wants you to get involved. So in conclusion, I'll say this, and Pastor Jim's going to come up here in a minute and wrap us up, but 4 things I want you to walk away with today. Jesus has an amazing gift for you if you want it. Jesus already knows all of your sin. You're not hiding anything from him. Jesus wants to entrust you with the priceless treasure of the gospel and the good news of Jesus Christ. And he wants you to multiply. There's a great quote by Andy Stanley, and I love it. It says, in the beginning, the goal wasn't to experience something. It was to experience someone. People were changed because they experienced Jesus. And people have been changed for generations because they experienced Jesus' followers. If you've experienced life change with Jesus, whether that came out of good or bad circumstances, he has hidden a treasure in your heart. And the question that I want to leave you with today is, what are you planning to do with that treasure? Will you take a risk and invest it for the sake of kingdom, or will you spoil it? Your story is not just for you. And will your life change outlive you, or is it going to die with you? What kind of influence will you have on your neighbor and your friends and your classmates and the people you go to school with and the people you work with who don't know Jesus? The woman went out from this experience with Jesus and began to multiply. And we're going to continue to talk about what that looks like. I'm starting a new series next week called, anybody guesses? Multiply. You're a smart group. Pastor Jim, come wrap us up.
Haven't you enjoyed this sermon series? Thank you, Pastor. It was awesome. Yeah, we can clap for that. Absolutely. A couple things I want to remind you of before you're dismissed this morning. Our first Never Too Late NTL gathering is this Tuesday night at 6 p.m. It's for 20s, 30-something. Something's childcare will be provided. We'd love for you to register online if you could, just to let us know you're coming. Check out our social media post for that. It's out there on our Facebook page. So that's Tuesday night, 6 p.m. A great way to connect and build community. The first one, like I said, we're hosting. Also want to let you know if you're new here to Salem Grace today, we're so thankful that you're here. On your way out, make sure you stop by our table back there, and we would love to get you a coffee from 610. So make sure you get that card on your way out, and just our way of saying thank you for being here. Next Sunday, you are not going to, I can't say what's going to happen, but you will not want to miss next Sunday. Our church is going to change between now and next Sunday in a great way. Don't miss it, okay? Next Sunday, make sure that you are here. It'll be a great, great day, and we want to celebrate what God's doing in our church. Tonight is the swim night at the public pool. Again, there's rain in the forecast, but I have foreseen that it will stop at around 6:15. Right. I might as well. I mean, I can't be any more wrong than the weatherman, or can't be any more right than the weatherman. But we're pretty sure that we're hoping that the storms will be out by then and the rain will be gone. So 6:15 tonight. Let me tell you, this, even if you're not planning on getting in the water, my wife is not a swimmer, but we are going. And she said it's to cover me up because I keep on threatening to wear a Speedo tonight. But I'm not going to, don't worry. But we're planning on going because it's going to be a great way to connect with other folks. It can be difficult, we know, on Sunday mornings to connect with people here. And so even if you're not planning on swimming, it'd be great just to come and hang out with people and get to know them. And so that's tonight at 6:15, all right? God bless you guys. Have a great week, and we will see you next Sunday.